Welcome back. All right, so the Stanley Cup was awarded about, 12, 15 hours ago. At any rate, we're already talking about next year's Stanley Cup winner. Yep, so the odds on favorite, according to the odds makers for next year's Stanley Cup, currently the Colorado Avalanche. We haven't gone through the draft, the trade market, or free agency, but it's worthy of note that the Avs are the favorites to win the Cup next year. Now, they're followed by Toronto and Edmonton, so this just sets the odds where they think, all right, this is where it's going to be, and then we'll see where the betting takes it, but right now, the favorites are the Colorado Avalanche. We'll see if that is, in fact, the case next season, won't we? And I understand, too, that I got 2023 right. So I did this ridiculous video years ago where I said I'm going to predict the Stanley Cup champions till 2040. And I had fun with it. And I was right about 2023. So I have no idea what that says. I have no idea what that means. But yeah, apparently it was close with 2022 and I got 2023 right. So, anyways, the Vegas Golden Knights, I'll skip down to that as well. Phil Kessel saying he's not retiring. Retirement is not in the plans for him at this point in time. He wants to keep playing. He has 3 Stanley Cups to his name now. And so, yeah, he was a healthy scratch through most of the playoffs, but he did play every regular season game. He played, I think it was 6 playoff games as well. And if Phil wants to play, I'm sure there will be teams that are willing to give him a chance. Now, coming back to Florida. So I talked about this in the video I did specifically about the Panthers this morning. I'll talk about it again here. It was a fractured sternum for Matthew Tkachuk that kept him out of the lineup. I've seen ridiculous comments online about how, basically he should have played through it, and that's just insane. Anybody saying that, he should have just played through it, clearly trolling and not doing a very good job of it. Because, I can't imagine playing through something like that. I would need to rest for a little bit. If I had a broken sternum, I would need to at least go lay down, rest, and reconsider what caused my sternum to get broken. So multiple players are likely to have surgery. The timeline that's going to happen with this is, it appears to be 4 to 6 months in some cases. The high ankle sprain for Radko Gudas during the regular season would have kept him out for 6 weeks, kept him out for one period in these playoffs. So tough players. We've had this discussion before. There are players who've played through injury in the playoffs that has shortened their careers. This is why I say when a team has gone through multiple runs to the Stanley Cup final in a short period of time, it is unlikely they will be able to do that run again because they're beat up. And so we'll see with Florida what that does for their expectations next year. Maurice saying basically we'll be lucky to make the playoffs next year. And honestly, yeah, set the bar low because we saw what Boston did this year. Boston, going into the season, there were some really key guys missing time with injury. They were fine. Then the playoffs. But anyways, during the regular season, Boston was fine. There really wasn't a problem. So news today as the Canadian radio landscape continues to it's a mess. TSN 1260 is one of the numerous channels owned by Bell that got shut down today. So with the networks being shut down, 5 of them closed altogether that are, again, run by Bell. TSN 1260, and Bell is selling 3 others. So that's 8 networks. That's 8 networks of full staffs and all of that. And it's a shame. Now, what that's got trending is I've seen the hashtag Let's Talk trending on Twitter a little bit because, again, this is a company that talks about, hey, mental health, and we have Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is really important. And then they fire a lot of their staff. And very often it seems like it's about increasing the profits so that the CEOs and the executives make more money and get higher bonuses, which is standard in corporate world, but it doesn't look very good publicly. Now, of course, it does have other networks worrying what's coming next. So there are people within the industry concerned about what's going to happen next. The fact that Rogers and Bell own a lot of the Canadian sports entities, both radio, TV, and whatnot. For instance, Sportsnet is Rogers, TSN is Bell. And so, yeah, that's where we're at right now with Canadian media. And we'll see what else happens. Well, and I have an XFM subscription because we have that for our van and whatnot, and I've listened to it on here as well. But it is shocking just how many stations get shut down. And comparing radio now to what it was when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it's nothing. It's nothing like what it was. I think that the amount of jobs in that field have dropped quite a bit since the late 80s, early 90s. And then I think the peak for AM and FM radio was probably early 80s, mid 80s, and then it just dropped way off. So we'll see what happens next, but all the best to people who did lose their jobs today. There are some very good broadcasters that are out of work. And yeah, we'll see how they. I mean, everybody's got a podcast. So I mean, I have a podcast. I don't really do a lot of podcast episodes, but I have one because everybody has one. So you kind of have to have one. But hopefully, everybody lands on their feet, and we'll see something change in this sphere that people are able to start building and creating jobs more than losing said jobs. So if you're wondering with the NHL with the buyout window, when does that start? It starts on Friday. So the buyout window opens this Friday and it runs till June the 30th. A lot of talk about who may or may not be bought out. Remember, we've got the flat cap. So with the flat cap for one more year, and then the cap should just absolutely skyrocket the year after, we may see a busy buyout period right now. So this is the first window. There's a second window that opens as well, but this it will be interesting to see how many players get bought out. The most popular one on a cap friendly to get bought out for at least a month has been Matt Murray, the Toronto Maple Leafs, which would make some sense if Murray ended up being bought out by Toronto. Remember, Brad Treliving, new GM, may not have the allegiances to players that Dubas may have had, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, the buyout window opens Friday, and of course, anytime there's a buyout, I'll be around to talk about it. Derek Ryan signed an extension yesterday with the Oilers. 2 years, $950,000 per. I would have done a video, but again, that would have been the only item on the board. May not have generated a lot of discussion worthy of just having its own video. But Ryan, a solid veteran forward, 13 goals this past season, 20 points. And really, honestly, a late bloomer, one of those late bloomers in the National Hockey League, who is, going to provide them a solid bottom six presence. Nothing earth-shattering there, but the Oilers, doing what they can to keep things together. Speaking of which, the Caps are looking for a way to, make themselves some cap space. So Frank Saravelli's reporting that the Capitals are shopping both Evgeny Kuznetsov and Anthony Mantha. Doesn't sound like it's anything serious. It sounds like it's more of just picking up the phone and seeing who's interested kind of thing. Kuznetsov would be a tough one to move. His numbers are definitely down. He's been trending in the wrong direction for a couple of years now. And Anthony Mantha, not a great year for him either. So with the Capitals, they're looking to bounce back and get back into the playoffs next year. And in order to do so, they're going to need to make changes. And the contracts of both Kuznetsov and Mantha might make that difficult. So we'll see if maybe they're going to end up having to take that route where they have to trade them to a team like Arizona, maybe Chicago, and throw in a prospect or a draft pick to get them to take those players. It's not a great experience, right? I would think as a general manager to say, look, I've got this asset, and in order to get you to take this asset, here's another one, and we won't ask for anything back. It has to be a rough feeling, but I think we're going to see some of those trades this summer, and the Capitals may be involved. And of course, with the Caps, a team that I think needs to do some sort of a retool anyways, if they do give up future assets along with giving up one of those contracts, that might end up looking bad in the long term or even short term. So speaking of the Capitals, their farm team in Hershey, they did manage to get a win over Coachella Valley, and it looked dicey there. They had a 3-1 lead, they had a 4-2 lead, and it was tied up by the Coachella Valley Firebirds in the final minute to force overtime, and then in the overtime, Hershey does get the win. So they're on the board. It's a 2-1 series now. They'll be looking to tie the series on Thursday. My intention is to watch the remaining games in the AHL's Calder Cup and recap those games the same way that I've been doing for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's my intention at this point. As long as everything works out on my end and I'm able to watch those games online and I'm able to get all that done, shouldn't be a problem. And we'll see if Hershey can complete the comeback or if Coachella Valley, if those Firebirds in their first year in Coachella Valley actually end up being the Calder Cup champs. So that'd be kind of amazing if that did happen, but we shall see soon enough. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.